Hey now, it's week 4 of the fantasy football season, and your favorite co-host Mike Dutton has now lost to myself and Chris Fiamano in back-to-back weeks. But hey, at least he's not the Broncos defense, am I right? All right.
I
We
feel
have
like
a
my
lot to
fantasy
get to
team.
today, especially on the heels of some breakout performances and more injuries last week. But before we do, I'm your co-host Wayne Cavadi, and allow me to introduce the Lenny and Squiggy to my Laverne. Ladies and degenerates, Fanduel Fee and Mr. Dutton Fee, how are you?
I'm doing good. I had a better fantasy week last week, although in FanDuel I kind of crapped the bed, but we can talk about that soon.
Yeah. Mr. Dutton, how's it going?
I'm doing great. I am the Broncos defense because if your fantasy team plays my fantasy team, you're going to put up a record number of points every week.
Yeah, but you'll score more than 20.
That is true.
So, okay, the Dolphins and Broncos are some of the craziest that we'll get to. And we have a kind of a different style of buy it or bullshit this week. But before we get there, we do have a viewer question that I let you guys in on before the show. The viewer question is from longtime listener Neil, who is perhaps best known for hitting the game-winning half-court shot in the 1994 Tenafly Summer League Championship game. But what he wants to know is, in a non-PPR standard league with Mike Williams now on the shelf from the Chargers, who do you like to replace him? Here's the list, gentlemen. Are you ready?
Ready.
Josh Palmer, Elijah Moore, Tutu Atwell, Josh Downs, Romeo Doubs, Tyler Boyd, or Marquise Brown. We'll start with non-PPR because that was his question, but I think there's a nice handful of people here to sort through it, and then we could address PPR as well. Fee, I'll start with you.
So that's a lot of different names. They're all very similar type of receivers, I feel like. As far as fantasy points go, they're different types of receivers, sure. But for me, I think it's Josh Palmer just because of the offense that he's in and the way Los Angeles throws the ball around, and Herbert, he's a top 5 guy and he's going to throw for 4,500 yards this year, and he's got to throw it to somebody. And it can't just be Keenan Allen all the time. So I'd go with Josh Palmer.
Dutton.
The answer is Josh Palmer, but I'm going to tell you why it's not Romeo Doubs, Tyler Boyd. It's not Romeo Doubs because you're expecting Christian Watson to at some point come back, right?
But doesn't that help him a little bit?
I don't think it does. I don't know. I mean, it might, but I don't know. I really don't. And then Tyler Boyd, we're going to talk about in a little bit, but I'm scared of anybody that's playing with the Bengals right now just because they're a ticking time bomb, right, of Joe Burrow's calf. So, yeah, I mean, Josh Palmer's the answer. I mean, that offense is still going to score. It doesn't matter. I mean, I don't know if I could play wide receiver, but I think maybe I could for that team. I don't know. So,
Tutu Atwell is intriguing because he's getting the rushing yards and standard non-PPR. So you do kind of get a little bit of extra there. But go ahead, Fee.
But you have Puka there, and then Cooper Kupp is supposed to come back at some point this year.
Right. They're saying they hope he's back week 5, right? When he's eligible to come off. So
now you're talking about 2 guys that are commanding targets, and now Tutu, where does he get? Where does he fall in line there? You don't really know. Yeah. It's kind of an unknown what you're getting with him.
You don't believe in the juggernaut of the offense called the Arizona Cardinals and Marquise Brown continuing this?
Yeah, I like Hollywood Brown. I think he's a good player, but I can't believe in the Arizona offense with what's his name at quarterback? I forget his name.
Joshua Dobbs.
Dobbs.
Dobbs. I mean, I'll tell you something about him in a minute, but he's just inconsistent, Hollywood Brown, right? Yeah. One week he'll have 120 yards and 8 catches and 2 touchdowns, and the next week he'll have 1 catch for 9 yards. So,
I think Josh Palmer out of these names is the one you go to, but you guys know this. I still love Elijah Moore. I know he's still not doing what I think he can do, but he's doing more than he did with the Jets. So maybe he gets to that point. And we discussed it last week. Part of the problem is Watson is not helping matters at all. All right, so that was the answer to your question, Neil. And we hope you take it to heart and win a game this week using it as advice. But it's time to get to buy it or bullshit. And of course, there was one massively huge story this week that we all saw unfold, and it kept just it felt like it didn't end. It just kept going and going and going. And of course, that's Taylor Swift was at the Chiefs game. And the first buy it or BS question going to you, Mr. Dutton, and Fanduel Fee, because I know you have family members that are very in tune with this situation. Buy it or BS, Dutton. Taylor Swift is about to become more annoying than Patrick Mahomes' brother.
I'm going to say BS on that. I don't think we see her again for a long time.
You don't? I feel like she's everywhere.
No, because she's getting ready to. She's getting ready
to the game next week.
No, she's getting ready to go on her world tour. She's going to be in Argentina in November, and then
she's going to be at the game next week. I read.
Yeah, but
it's Monday night, isn't it, or Sunday night?
Yeah, Monday night.
You're gonna read that everywhere though now, right? Because that is going to be the hook to get people to tune into the game.
Taylor Swift might be there. By the way, the game's in New York.
I know. My girl, listen, if anybody's going to know from now on, it'll be my two teenagers, because they are well into the Swiftie world, and they will keep me up to date on everything that is Taylor Swift and where she's going to be. And both of them have told me they don't think she's at the game in New York this week. But no, to your question, Wayne, I think it's BS. It's not in her style. It's not. Like, she's not going, like, yes, she was having fun at the game on Sunday. Yes, apparently every Chiefs player was more enamored with Taylor Swift being with Mama Kelsey in the booth than with what was happening on the field, which I don't blame them, because, and to be honest, thank God she was at that game, right? Because what else would they have shown other than the beating and drubbing that the Bears were taking, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, I mean, yeah, I would love to know the rating of that game. I would love to know the rating.
Oh my God, it had to be through the roof.
It was like 24 million or something. Watch that game.
And I only say that because my 14-year-old has never watched more football with me and was yelling at the red zone, just keep the Chiefs game on. Just keep the Chiefs game on. So yes, I don't think Taylor's going to be annoying, but I think people will gladly say she's coming to games to get people interested in a game that might not be interesting.
Faith.
Well, the answer is BS, and that's because no one is more annoying than Patrick Mahomes' brother.
That's actually the right answer.
Period. End of story. But no, I don't think. I agree with Dutton. I don't think it'll become annoying. It'll just become annoying if you want it to be. I mean, she'll be talked about, and for as long as they're a thing, whatever that thing may be. But Dutton's right. She's not going to be at every game. Maybe she goes next week, maybe she doesn't, but you probably won't see her again the rest of this year. So, it is what it is.
The NFL announcers are going to make her annoying. She's not.
The situation's going to be annoying.
Honestly, I really like all the puns. Like, with and they find them in blank space, Travis Kelce.
Right. Yeah. They're great.
I love all that.
The puns are great. The fact that they might have snuck her out. They might have snuck her out in a popcorn thing to get her in and out of the stadium. Like, yeah, this is insane. Like, it's crazy. So,
man.
Right, and the other thing that's good about it is,
go ahead.
It takes away attention from Brittany Mahomes, which I'm also happy about, because there's going to be that's the reality show we need to watch, is the fact that all of a sudden she's not the one everyone's paying attention to as the spouse or girlfriend of the superstar in Kansas City, which my girls are very excited about because they're not fans of her.
Well, you mentioned one of the games that triggered the idea behind this week's Buy It or BS, and this is the Chiefs and Bears game. So this week we're going to look at two sets of players. We're about a quarter of the way through the fantasy football season. We had overreaction week 1. We talked about overreaction there, but let's talk about pressing the panic button on some of these players. So Fee and Dutton, I'm going to read you a name. We're going to call this portion the panic button, and you tell me buy it or BS if it's time to press the panic button. And we are going to start with the end of that game that got their ass romped, and Justin Fields. This guy was drafted very high for quarterback. He was probably the 5th or 6th off the board. I thought that was incredibly high. Dutton, to you, buy it or BS. It is time to press the panic button on Justin Fields.
Okay, well, yeah, sure. If you have a panic button on Justin Fields, press it. I don't have a panic button on Justin Fields because I've been telling everybody for 3 years that Justin Fields is not going to pan out to be a decent quarterback. Partly his fault, partly not his fault. Like, he is in a bad situation that's not getting better, right? I never trusted the guy. The other thing is, if you are considering starting Justin Fields, I really need to be in your league. So
Yeah, he's not
right,
startable right now, unless they
right.
put him at running back. He's not startable right now. Fee.
Pass it to Fate.
Yeah, so I'm with Dutton here. I was never really on Fields to begin with. I agree with him that I was, for the last couple of years, I never really believed in him. I was never ever going to have a share of him in any fantasy leagues. But if you have him as your starting quarterback because you drafted him as a top 5 quarterback, you got a problem, and you absolutely should be pressing the panic button. If you're starting him or if you're looking to start him, because you shouldn't be.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. Garrett Wilson, Fee, we'll start with you. Garrett Wilson, buy it or BS, time to press the panic button.
Yes, 100% buying it. He only gets 2 to 3 catches a week. That's pretty unsustainable for fantasy goodness. And even if he's catching that long ball, that 60-yard bomb or that 70-yard bomb, I mean, that's not going to happen every single week. And he might not even score a touchdown. But you can't rely on 2 to 3 catches a week. From a guy again who was a second round pick.
Yeah, Dutton.
Press it. Press the panic button. Buying it. Press it. I mean, Trevor Siemian is not going to save the day, right? I'm sorry. Like, it's
That's what I was going to say. The whole situation. It sounds like. I mean, I don't know how much you could take from these beat reporters that like to stir up drama, but it sounds like Salah's losing. Right, though, I don't know if you heard all this, but there's a lot
locker room.
The defense is saying we don't want to be out there all day.
Right. It's
bad. Is this guy a quarterback? Nobody wants Zach Wilson throwing them the ball. They haven't said Garrett Wilson said that, but they're like, there's people on the off. Like, it just seems like a nightmare situation. And it's like you said, he's only getting 5 targets a game without Aaron Rodgers. He was drafted in the 2nd round. He probably was still a 3rd or 4th rounder, whatever the situation was at quarterback. But once Aaron Rodgers got there, you were looking at possibly one of the best wide receivers in fantasy this year. But yeah, it's panic time. Dutton, to you, Dak Prescott, buy it or BS? The guy couldn't beat the Arizona Cardinals. Is it time to press the panic button on him?
No, because it's Dak Prescott, and you should just expect that every now and then he's going to throw a stupid interception in the red zone when he can try to bring his team back to win. Did Dak lose the game? I don't know if it helped that the defense let the Cardinals run up and down the field on them, but at the same time, he didn't look great. But I think it's just Dak. I don't press the panic button. I don't. I think you're fine. Ride that wave.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Dutton here again. I don't think it's panic time for Dak, because again, you're just getting what you expected from him. He's a top 12 quarterback, so he's a starter in 12-team leagues, but he was taken as that number 10, 11, 12 guy. So like, what did you really actually expect for him to be doing this year? So I think you're getting what you expected from him.
I still think he's Blake Bortles. I think the guy has monster games when he could feed on, like it's 60-0 and he just keeps chucking the ball. But when it matters, I just think he disappears. I'll always think that. But that, like you kind of like what you said, Dunn, sometimes that translates to great fantasy points. Sometimes that translates to a stinker. Mm-hmm. This is a tricky one, but this team has not gotten it going. Fee, I think we're going to you. Buy it or BS. Hit the panic button on Joe Burrow.
I'm going to say BS. Not to panic just yet. The injury scares me. I don't like that he's struggling a bit. He looked a little bit better this past week. He got Jamar Chase involved. And I think that they have a good enough offense where he can be decent, as long as that injury doesn't hamper him all year. But I think that he can get it together, and I think that Bengals offense can get it together. And so I wouldn't panic just yet on Burrow.
Dutton.
If you were expecting him to be a top 5 quarterback this year, you should be panicking. I don't think you're getting much more than this. I don't think he can throw the ball more than 10 to 15 yards this year because I haven't seen him do it yet. Because everything is like an 8-yard pass or 4-yard screen or something, because I don't think he can push off on that calf. He's not going to get better. We all know that. If you start the season with an injury, you're never going to get better because it's just not going to happen in football. And I think this is what you get this year. I don't think it's bad for the Bengals as a team. Like, I think he can lead them to victories in that, and possibly the playoffs. But I don't think from a fantasy side, you're going to get monster games from Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think he catches fire late, but it's like you said, where he was drafted, you got some work to do right now, and you got to wait till he's fully healthy. Dutton, we'll stay with you. Buy it or BS. Time to hit the panic button on Derrick Henry.
We warned you. We told you to just stay away from him. We warned you. Yes, panic.
Fee.
Yeah, we sure as crud did. Jeff, when we had him on the first week of the season, he said it, buyer beware.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry, too much volume, too much tread on the tires, told you to stay away. So
and we're seeing it. His yards per carry are down. I mean, he's just getting hit. He doesn't have that. He doesn't look like the Derrick Henry of old. The last one is a tricky one. Fee, we'll go to you. Buy it or BS, hit the panic button on Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy it and say yes, you need to hit the panic button because it sucks. It's a tough situation, but the New England running back situation has never ever been a good one. It's always been a committee. Even when there's a main guy, it's never really the main guy because then Belichick brings in guys on passing situations, and then I don't know. The volume just never is good enough for a New England running back. As good as Ramondre Stevenson is, you just never know what you're going to get week to week. And so like he could have fantastic weeks, every other week, but do you know which week that is?
Yeah. Yeah. Dutton.
Yeah. I mean, Fee said it all. It's the Patriots running back situation. It's, I mean, Zeke is going to get some more carries each week, it looks like, or maybe not. We don't know because for years there's always been 2 running backs. And then, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see a 3rd running back that comes out of nowhere in New England that we barely knew. And then all of a sudden he's going to be getting all the goal line touches. So, yeah, it's so hard with Bill Belichick's offense because he's not going for the star, or he's going for who do I need for this specific play.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so, last week you look at it, Ramondre had 3 more carries than Zeke, but Zeke made more of it, right? Like he got 5 yards a carry, where Ramondre was only getting 3. The thing that concerns me as someone that drafted him is he's not even getting targeted.
Nope.
And that's where he was going to make his money for fantasy owners, was he was a big guy in the pass game last year, and it's not looking that way this year. And I am panicking. I have him. I've drafted him highly. So yeah, I'm panicking. Now let's do the opposite of panicking, and we'll go to like the greatest American hero and believe it or not. So I'm going to bring up some names, and you're going to tell me if it's buy it or BS that you believe it. Okay. And of course, we're going to start with that Miami game, and we're going to have to elaborate on this guy. But Devon Achane. Fee, we'll start with you. Buy it or BS, you believe it.
I believe it. He's a super dynamic runner. He's obviously very fast, and they can get him in space because of all the weapons that they have on that offense. I absolutely believe it. I know that Raheem Mostert's there. You never know what's going to happen to Mostert with the injury situation. He's fine right now, but they've obviously both can coexist in this offense.
Dutton.
I just don't understand where this guy came from, and he's Tyreek Hill out of the backfield. I mean, that's what he is. Like, so yeah, I'm buying it. What? Yeah, believing it, buying into it, whatever. Like, sure, throw it out there.
Look, I watched right before this show, I went on NFL Plus and I watched the condensed game.
Right.
And I didn't watch all of it on, you turn off a 70-point game because you want to watch other things, because the amount of tackles that he was making people miss. The Denver Broncos are bad. But there was a lot of money spent on that defense. And no matter how bad they are, they're still an NFL defense. right? So everyone's that's like, well, they played the Broncos. No, the dude ran for 203 yards, making people miss. Okay. I don't know if that was because the Broncos are really bad and they can't finish a tackle, but he deserves a chance at least next week against the Bills to see if he is just so fast you can't lock him up, because that's what it looked like. The other thing is let's not forget Mike McDaniel went with Kyle Shanahan everywhere because he's like this run guru. So don't tell me that they invested a third round pick, I believe A-Chain was in the third round, because Mostert's the guy. They're both going to coexist. There was so much movement on Tyreek Hill's going one way. A-Chain's coming this way. You don't know who Tua is going to hand the ball, if he's going to throw the ball. They're not each going to get 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. But yeah, these guys are going to coexist, and I'm on the A train, baby. I'm all about it. You guys know what my answer is going to be for this. Dutton, we'll go to you. Buy it or BS? It's Tank Dell season, baby.
Buy it. I mean, CJ Stroud is, the Houston Texans hit the lottery with CJ Stroud, and Tank Dell is going to benefit from it. The Texans are going to benefit from it. And right now, there's a team about 3 hours away from me that's questioning what they should have done with their pick.
Fee.
I'm buying it. Tank Dell looks great, especially opposite Nico Collins. I think Houston has something going there. And I just think that he gets open in a way that that's good for CJ Stroud. He gets open quick.
Yeah.
And he's getting them the ball, and as long as they continue to do that, Tank Dell's going to have a fantastic fantasy season this year.
Yeah, and look, I love Dameon Pierce, but they have 4 linemen that have been out the last 2 weeks. Until that line gets healthy, they're going to be chucking the ball a lot because Dameon Pierce has no time to think back there when he gets the ball. An old friend of ours, Dutton, buy it or BS? You believe it. Adam Thielen is feeling it.
He's feeling it if the Red Rocket is dealing it, right? I mean,
Nice.
I don't know. There's a lot going on at Carolina, but Adam Thielen will get targets because he's Adam Thielen, and they don't really have anybody else to throw the ball to. And they're going to have to throw the ball a lot because they're going to be down a lot. And whether it's Bryce Young coming back and throwing the ball or Red Rocket Andy Dalton continuing to throw the ball, Adam Thielen will benefit from it.
It's unreal what Adam Thielen is doing in his 30s. The problem is that I don't think that it's a sustainable for the entire season, especially when, and I wrote what's his name comes back, but Dutton just said it, Bryce Young. But as long as Andy Dalton is there, throwing the ball, Thielen's got a chance to do what he does every single year, which is, catch 100 balls, for over 1,000 yards. So it still shocks me a little bit, but he's still getting it done.
Yeah, I think the numbers will be down, but I think it's to what Dutton said, the amount of targets he's going to get because there's nobody else there. I mean, he's a good guy for PPR. Like he's going to get 10 targets a week, especially if it's Dalton. We'll see. They said Bryce Young practiced. Let's move on. Buy it or BS? Fee. Believe it in Kyren Williams. Yeah,
I'm believing it. They dumped Cam Akers because they know what they have in Kyren Williams, and the Rams offense is looking halfway decent to start the year here. So I'm believing it.
Dutton.
I believe it, and he's only going to get better when Cooper Kupp possibly comes back, right? Because you can't not play against 2 wide receivers because Pakua or whatever his name is, he's not going away, right?
Yeah.
So then they can open up the run. They can actually use the pass to then run, which I think he benefits.
I don't know if I buy it. It's what we talked about last week. He's touchdown dependent. This week, he had 30 yards, right? He didn't get in the end zone. He did not have a good week. And to your points, I think Cooper Kupp comes back. Tutu Atwell is like this gadget guy. Puka Nacua is just catching anything thrown. I think it's Stafford season. He just starts slinging it all over the place. I'm not sold on Kyren Williams yet. I just don't know he's in the right fit. The other guy we talked about last week, Fee, buy it or BS? You believe in Zach Moss?
Oh, I believe it. I got this stat. He leads all running backs with an 83% snap share, which is amazing for a guy in that offense. But I guess there's no one else to kind of give him, there's no backup there, right? So, with that kind of volume, I don't think it matters how good he is. But by the way, he is actually pretty good. But he's getting tons of volume and he's putting up fantasy points, and that's what you need.
Yep. Dutton.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, you didn't draft him to be your first running back, right?
Right.
So you're going to get good production out of your running back 2, or possibly what you thought would have been your third running back. So yeah. I'm buying it. Yep.
Yeah. Last guy, he was my last pick in our league, gentlemen. Mike Evans. Is he still with Baker? Is he still something to believe in? Give me something to believe in. Dutton.
There's a reason he was the last pick. And we started to see it Monday night. And I will be honest, if they had a quarterback, a decent quarterback that's better than Baker Mayfield, the Bucs would be 3-0. Because there's no reason they don't win that game with the way their defense played the other night. And they just couldn't do anything offensively. They couldn't move the ball. Mike Evans has started to get the dropsies again, if you noticed, but it also doesn't help that Baker Mayfield does not throw a nice tight spiral, so it's harder to catch. So yeah, I'm worried about Mike Evans. I'd be worried about him.
Fee.
Baker! Baker, baby. I believe in Mike Evans. I'm all right with him. I know he had the dropsies. He's a good player. There's no doubt about it. And Baker, he just does what he does. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. But like you said, you got Mike Evans with the last pick in the draft in the 17th round. So, hats off to you. He's going to be a decent, contributor for your roster.
Yeah. I mean, he's been double digits every week, whether it's half PPR standard or because of the touchdowns. And he had that monster week. And where people drafted him, he's saving a lot of people's seasons. Like he was a guy, I'm sure people with Cooper Kupp drafted late, or myself with injuries everywhere, drafted late. And I drafted Garrett Wilson, and that's a dud, but I've been able to get by with Mike Evans. I think he's saving a lot of people. How long it lasts, we'll see. We'll see how
Baker,
long.
baby, Baker.
All right, let's move on to Jameson Williams locks of the week. We remember last week I gave 2. I said I thought the Steelers or the Patriots would cover. They both covered. They both won. You guys both. I actually said the Steelers were my lock. You guys disagreed with me and said I should have gone with the Patriots. So we were all right. So the 3 and out locks of the week are now 2-1 on the season. Let's win you some more money this week. Dutton, we'll start with you. Who is your lock of the week?
Going with the big spread. It's not huge, but I think it should be bigger, to be honest with you. It's only because their defense, and it's probably because it's a home game.
Dutton?
Jets, but can you hear me?
Yep, we lost you for a second.
Okay. I'm picking the Chiefs to cover 9.5 against the Jets.
Okay. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, your weekly reminder, it's Wednesday night. The spreads could shift, so always watch them. But right now, Dutton is taking the Chiefs, giving 9.5 to the Jets, and Fee is
taking the Philadelphia Eagles -8.5 against the Commanders. And I know that you're not supposed to bet in division games because they're always tough. And everyone keeps talking about how Philly's not as good as last year and they have all these injuries and blah, 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 blah. They're still one of the best teams in the league, if not the best. They're probably one of the best teams in the NFC. And, they have a great game last week? No, but they're also talking about how the whole team was, struck with the flu and they had some sort of illness and all this other crap. So they should be healthier, coming up this week. Washington, I hate to say it, is just not a great team. I'm taking Philly minus the 8.5.
Here's my question for you. Can the Broncos-Bears game be canceled? Why is this game still being? Neither of those two teams deserve to play a football game, especially against each other after last week. I mean, come on. And why is Vegas even putting a spread on that game?
Yeah.
If you're Vegas, why are you putting a spread on that game? Where is money coming from on that game? Like, I want to know who's sitting there going, you know what game I'm going to bet? The Broncos and the Bears.
Yeah,
Like,
but I bet you there's a lot of people who are betting that game because of that exact reason. Like, I'm going to be crazy and bet the Bears game this week.
maybe. Well, I'm going to lock in because they're going to be cartoons playing in Andy's room. And the Jaguars seem to have they seem to perform well in London games. They've been there a lot. I feel like I wish I looked at that, but it's our first
they have,
London.
yeah.
They have, right?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, you guys know how I do think the Falcons are good. I don't think Ritter's the man, and I think it is time for a change. I should have put him up top, but nobody's really. If you're starting Desmond Ritter in fantasy, you got bigger problems, my friend. But yeah, so I'm going Jaguars. They're giving 3 to the Falcons in London. They'll be playing in Andy's room on Disney Plus. I'm excited to see how that goes down. The only reason not because it's my pick. The other spreads scare me. Out of those two spreads, I'm definitely staying away. It's as you said, Fee. I don't do division games, so I would go with either the Chiefs or the Jaguars. Which one do we want to? What do you guys think?
I kind of like them
Well-
both, but I'd go with the Chiefs, to be honest.
Okay, let's lock it in, ladies and gentlemen. Your 3 and out lock of the week for their Jameson Williams lock of the week is the Chiefs giving 9.5 to the Trevor Siemian New York Jets. That takes us to the stacks of the week. Fanduel Fee. You kind of had, I mean, it was a week. It was your first week because you had 2 really good weeks to start the season. I could attest to it because I won money off your picks last week. We struggled because we put our faith in Dak. And that's my fault for also believing that that guy would be good on a big when it mattered, but it didn't. So what do you got for us this week, Fanduel Fee?
Yeah, that was a big mistake, figuring that the Cowboys would actually be decent against the Cardinals, but that didn't turn out to be the case. So this week, I like the Cincinnati Bengals. So I like Joe Burrow. He's pretty cheap down at 7,200. It's because they're playing the Titans, who are a pass funnel defense. They're really, really good against the run. So Cincinnati's going to have to throw the ball. And I believe that Burrow and Jamar Chase is going to be a fantastic stack against Tennessee's defense through the air because they are terrible in the secondary, one of the worst in the league. So I'm going with Burrow. Chase is up at 8,200. He's not the highest salaried receiver. But with Burrow down at 7,200, it only costing you 15,000. I think that's a fantastic stack. And it might go under owned because people are afraid of Burrow. My second stack
before you move on, is there anyone at all you'd be willing to run back on Tennessee in that game?
No.
I mean, I can't think of one. I can't.
I mean, maybe
Chigakonkwo
if you wanted to punt tight end.
A cheap tight end, right? Yeah.
Yeah, if you really wanted to go with a cheap tight end, you could go with Chigakonkwo. He hasn't done anything this year, which is terrible because I feel like he's a good player. It's just that Tennessee just hasn't been able to do anything on offense. So I don't really feel good about a comeback with Tennessee. But if you really wanted to do something, you could go with Chigakonkwo and pay down at tight end. All right, stack number 2. I really like Josh Allen this week. They are playing Miami. They have one of the highest over-unders of the week this week. It's the Bills Dolphins. And Josh Allen is the highest salaried quarterback at 9K, but I think it might be worth it. You stack him with Stephon Diggs at 8,700, and you could come back with anybody you want on that Miami team. And you know what else you could do is you could triple stack that game and throw in James Cook as well. Miami's defense doesn't really stop the run very well. And the Bills actually have a decent offense as opposed to the Broncos. So I feel like the Bills could stay with Miami as far as score is concerned. You throw in James Cook in there as well. He's at 6,800. I think that's a fantastic play. And stack number 3, we talked about it a little earlier, but Andy Dalton is 6,800. He's very, very cheap. He's actually only a little bit cheaper than Burrow, but that Minnesota Carolina game interests me because both of those defenses are terrible. So you throw Andy Dalton in there, you throw in Adam Thielen in there at 6,800, you have a super cheap stack, probably one that's going to go under owned as well. And you come back with maybe a Justin Jefferson, who's the highest salaried receiver at 9,400, and you're probably pretty under owned as far as, you know, players go in that game. And I know you're going to ask me, so I went with I threw in a one-off for you, Wayne.
Okay.
And I'm not entirely sure about this, but he's only 5,800, which is for a running back is so cheap. Javonte Williams, he was a big name in DFS circles last week. He didn't do anything, you know, to speak of, but I feel like this week they're playing the Bears.
Yeah.
Okay. And we all know, and we talked about it earlier, how horrible the Bears defense is. And if you throw in Javonte Williams, you know, if the Broncos can't do anything either, they can't throw the ball either. Maybe they try to run the ball. And if he gets enough volume at 5,800, I feel like that's a great play.
Yeah, that's definitely a value play for sure.
Right.
So all right, well, thank you, Fanduel Fee. Yeah, and you know, again, it's Wednesday. Bryce Young, they said was out there throwing the ball around, so definitely watch it. But you know, like it is.
If that's the case, stay away from that game.
If Dalton plays against that Vikings defense, they're just going to sling it. I mean, there's no two ways around it, and he's going to throw it at Thielen all day. So we're moving on to third down, and it starts and sits time. I'm going to say this before we get started. It's been a very weird season. There's been a lot of big injuries, big injuries. And we're 75% correct on our starts and sits so far. So just so you know what do I mean by we're 75%? We make 8 3-and-out picks, 8 consensus picks a week, 4 starts, 4 sits, and we've hit 6 of 8 each week. You know, it's weird. We've aced one of or the other every week. We've gotten week 1 we got all the sits right. Week 2 we got all our starts right, and then last week we got all our sits right again. One of these weeks we'll put it all together, or maybe even have some balance and just go 3 and 3 or something. But I'm really proud of you guys. You know, we're obviously making right plays with all the weirdness that's going on. We're doing that. And what does it mean when we say we're making a right pick? Just a quick refresher. It means most leagues are 12-team leagues. If a player we said to start finishes in the top 12, that means you probably should have started them. If we said to sit them and they finished out of the top 12, then that means we were probably right. Of course, when it gets to receivers and running backs, you have in that like 13 to 17 range. We kind of call them the maybes. We don't really penalize us, but we don't give us full credit either. But we haven't hit any of those yet, but that's what we would do in the past, and we would address that. But right now, yeah, we've hit 75%. So the point is, listen to us. Let's get started. Before we roll into the starts and sits, remember players like Jimmy G, Jalen Waddle, they're practicing, but they are still in concussion protocol, as was Gus Bus, as last I heard, Gus Edwards on the Ravens. So there's still, and Mike Williams is out, as we said. So there's still a lot of injuries. Dutton, we're going to start with you this week at quarterback. Who is your start of the week?
Brock Purdy against the Cardinals. He had his first 300 game passing in a regular season last week, and I think that just continues.
Yeah.
I want to start Matthew Stafford playing against the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay. I'm going to go. Like I said, if he starts, I think that game is another shootout. One thing we forgot to mention last week, we said the lock of the week was taking the over in the Vikings-Chargers game, and we were right on that. And I don't think anything changes. Fee said the Vikings defense is bad. I think if Andy Dalton gets the start, I think he's a good sneaky start for you guys that have injuries out there. But if he doesn't get the start, I think Danny Dimes has to have a bounce back week against the Seahawks. The Seahawks don't impress me too much to worry about. Plus, are they Monday or Sunday? They're Monday night game.
Monday
night, yeah.
So I think he gets it right. And they even said Barkley was like jogging
day
to day.
If I were the Giants, I'd sit him.
Don't play him. Don't play him.
Out of these guys, I like Purdy. I'd like to lock in Purdy, but I'll leave it to you guys. What do you think?
I like Dalton. I talked about him earlier, but I'd be okay with going Purdy.
Well, let's put Dalton in there is if he plays, but let's go with Purdy as our strong pick.
Got it.
Running back, we'll start with Fee.
I want to start Alexander Madison against the Carolina Panthers. I know that he has not had a great year so far this year, but you just talked about that Vikings Carolina game, and I think that he could have a solid week this week.
It's funny because I go trade for Cam Akers, and I know he was inactive, but then they fed him like more than they had the first 2 weeks, right? And Madison actually, because of PPR, he had a good amount of receptions, wound up putting up his first really good week of the year. Dutton.
I'm going with Kenneth Walker the third against the Giants. I think the Seahawks found a running back, and I think Geno Smith being accompanied by a running game is going to help him. So I'm going with Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, if he stays healthy, I like him. He's good. Yeah. I'm going to go with a deep pick. Again, they're playing the Broncos, who couldn't stop anything. They couldn't catch a cold last week. Roshan Johnson on the Bears, he averaged 4.8 carries his first 2 games, the last 2 games, I should say. And I think against that Broncos defense that really has a hard time locking people up, I think he's the pick out of that Bears backfield. Who do we want? Kenny Walker the third seems like a solid pick, but I would roll with any of these guys to be fun. I'll start with a wide receiver. The law firm of Jacoby Myers. The Chargers defense isn't much better than the Vikings, and we saw that last week. We know Devontae. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to start Devontae Adams, but Myers has been clicking again. Jimmy G's in concussion protocol, but Myers has really been clicking with Jimmy G. And against that Chargers defense, I think he has a good week. Dutton.
Amari Cooper against the Ravens, and as long as the refs don't blow the play dead, he'll probably have a big touchdown.
Yeah, he's been great this year.
He has been.
Fee.
We talked about it earlier. I really like Adam Thielen, especially it's Minnesota. How about a revenge game for Adam Thielen?
I like it.
Yeah. Myers scares me if Jimmy G
because
does.
Of Jimmy G, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cooper, I think, is. You want to go Thielen? You want to go Thielen?
I like Thielen. I like the revenge game. I like the revenge game.
But I'm throwing it out there that I think Cooper has a huge game. But
he probably does, but that's fine.
Wait, can you explain to me why though, Wayne?
Why I think Cooper has a big game?
Yeah.
I just think I don't think Watson has time to throw the ball. I think Cooper is a very reliable receiver. I think he runs crisp routes, and I think he's open when he needs to be. And Watson has that faith in him. He could have had 2 touchdowns, like Dutton said with the whistle. He should have had 2 touchdowns last week.
Baltimore's not a better defense though that they're playing against.
Baltimore's definitely a better defense, but I'm still not sold that Baltimore's a great defense. I mean, they're
not the Ravens of the Ravens, right?
That's fair.
They just did lose. I know it was a low scoring affair, but they just did lose to Gardner Minshew led Baltimore Colts.
Indiana stepped out of bounds, and they still lost.
Right. Let's move to the tight ends. Dutton, I like yours. Oh, Fee, I like yours. Yeah. I hate that he's playing the Texans, but Muth finally caught that touchdown last week. You got anything else to add, or that you just wanted to say?
No, that's it. It's Muth. Yeah.
Pete.
I want to go with Luke Musgrave this week against the Lions, who are, I think, like 30th against the tight end in the league so far this year. So, yeah, I'm going to start Musgrave.
I'm going to go with Gerald Everett just because they're going to be looking for people, the void to fill from the Mike Williams injury. And I've said it maybe 74,000 times since we started this podcast. When you're looking to get right, you get to play the Raiders, it seems like it works out that way. And they've already allowed, I think, 3 touchdowns to the tight end this year. So I'm rolling with Everett. Who do we want to lock?
Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to go with Musgrave because I think most people in a 12-team league are probably going to have Everett and Muth starting, right? Okay. I think so. I'm going with Musgrave. I like.
You want to be bold. You want to be bold, right. Is what you're saying. I like it. Let's go bold.
To be fair, I also like Everett. I didn't even think about that, but the fact that A, he's playing the Raiders and they're terrible against the tight end is perfect. But also B, that they lost Mike Williams, which kind of opens up maybe a few targets here and there. I mean, Josh Palmer was really kind of on fire last week.
Yeah,
but I like Everett this week too. Just throwing that out there.
All right, so 3 and out, our starts of the week. Again, if Dalton plays, we like going sneaky with Dalton this week, but we're going to say Purdy also just to be safe because Bryce Young did practice. Ken Walker, the 3 sticks for the running back, Adam Thielen at wide receiver, even though I think Koopa Doop has a huge game, and then Musgrave at tight end because we want to be bold. Let's start with sits. Fee, we're going to go to you for quarterback.
I'm going to sit Lamar Jackson against the Cleveland Browns. The Browns defense is for real. They are legit, like, amazing defense. And I think Lamar is going to struggle this week.
Dutton.
Sitting Jordan Love, the Packers, only because at some point I think he's gonna have to have a bad game. Like, I mean, even though the Packers are 2-1, fantasy wise, he's put up like 27 points a week or something,
Yeah.
right? So I think at some point he has to have a bad game. It's a division game against the division leader Lions, which is crazy to think there's a battle for first place between these two teams, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sitting Jordan Love, and I hope he proves me wrong for sitting him, but I'm sitting him.
Now, I know I said I think the Jaguars win and cover 3 points, and I do, but I also think this is a snooze fest at 9:30 in the morning, and I think it's like 17-10, and I just don't think Trevor Lawrence has a big day. Maybe a touchdown and like 180 yards type of day.
Because more people are watching the Ryder Cup than this game, you think?
I'm going to be watching it on Disney Plus. Who do we want to
live from Andy's room?
I just don't. Here's my thing about Lamar. I don't think he's going to have a strong game, but I just don't know how you sit Lamar with that running ability. You know, like he's a guy that could bust a 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah, I hear you.
And get you 11 points like that. You know what I mean? Right. So, but I do kind of agree with you, Jordan Love. Like, I feel like he's been a better real quarterback, winning games than a fantasy quarterback. So let's sit him.
Okay.
Unless you guys have something else.
No, I'm good. I mean, that's fine.
Okay, running back. Dutton, we'll go to you. Done.
Me? Done? Okay. Going to me. Because Wayne went frozen.
Yep. Wayne froze a little bit.
Wayne? Oh, maybe not. Okay. Okay, so nobody's going to believe me when I say this, but I'm sitting Raheem Mostert because he's not going to have more than 18 points. If the over-under is 18 points on Raheem Mostert, you're hitting the under this week because he can't follow up 41 points with 20-something points. He's playing a real defense this week, and they also have Achny or whatever. So, yeah, I'm sitting Raheem Mostert. A-Chain. I'm sitting Raheem Mostert, and people are going to be like, what? He's sitting Raheem Mostert? I'm telling you, 18 points.
If he gets 18 points, you think that's bad? I'm confused.
I don't think it's bad, but I'm saying, like,
of course he's not going to get 40. Yeah,
I'm saying under 18. So now you're looking at a guy who just came off 40, and if you're sitting with 14 points, 15 points, you're not happy with that this week.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Fee.
I spoke about it a little earlier. I want to sit Joe Mixon. The Bengals are playing the Titans. The Titans are a pass funnel defense. They are really good against the run, and I think that continues this week. So sit Joe Mixon.
Now I'm gonna sit Rachaad White. Sorry, Dutton. Saints haven't allowed any touchdowns to the running game. He might get some yards, but he just didn't look very strong against a good Eagles rush defense, and I don't think he looks very strong against the Saints this week. I can't in good faith bench Raheem Mostert right now.
It's fine.
I do agree with you that he's not going to go for 41 again. And I do agree with you that against the Bills, him and A-Chain are going to take away from each other.
Right. That's my concern. Right.
Let's sit White.
Yeah. White. I don't think the Bucks might ever score a running touchdown.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. So yeah, let's sit White. For receivers, I'm gonna I mentioned him earlier that I just don't think he's consistent, but I'm gonna sit Hollywood Brown against the 49ers. He's gonna have a lot of love out there because he scored touchdown 2 weeks in a row, and people are gonna be like, and one game against the Cowboys. Yeah, but the 49ers defense doesn't have off days, right? And I don't think Hollywood Brown's gonna have a big game. Fee.
I am sitting. So New England Patriots have a really good defense. Even though their team is not all that great this year. So I want to sit CeeDee Lamb specifically because Christian Gonzalez is an amazing cornerback. and he's just awesome. New England kind of fell into a whole puddle of crap be able to draft him this year.
Yeah.
I know he's only a rookie, but as long as if they can get him to cover CeeDee Lamb, I think that he's going to have a long day. So I'm going to sit CeeDee Lamb this week.
All right. And then Dutton.
Garrett Wilson. There's no reason to play him right now. It's just sad, but it's sad.
Yeah, you're relying on the one big catch. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, I would sit Wilson for sure. I feel like that's an obvious one.
Yeah, I mean, he could be our. Well, I'm good locking him in as our lock.
Yeah,
Now remember, we're keeping him. Kyle Pitts actually had a halfway decent game last week in a PPR league. He got 9 points, 9.1 points, which was still like 15th best. So he's still, when we did say he was the sit. But remember, we decided last week to change it to the Kyle Pitts tight end sit of the week. So we're no longer allowed to pick Kyle Pitts as the sit because the award is named after him. So, Dutton, we'll start with you. Who's your sit? Who's your Kyle Pitts tight end sit of the week?
I'm sitting Zach Ertz because I think he's going to retire soon because his wife just retired. So why not? It's time.
B, who is your Kyle Pitts tight end sit of the week?
My Kyle Pitts tight end sit of the week is David Njoku.
He's
for the Browns. Yeah, he's just terrible. And,
Exactly.
and Baltimore's really good against the tight end too. So
yeah,
sit Njoku.
Yeah, they are. I think they're the second best fantasy wise against the tight end so far. But he's been disappointing. And again, how much is Deshaun Watson just not being able to get the ball to, feed plenty different mouths?
To anybody, except for maybe Amari Cooper.
This pains me because I really like him. I do like Dallas Goedert. But the Commanders haven't done much right. But one of the things they've done right is play well against the tight end. And they haven't allowed a touchdown this year. Goddard, I don't think, has a touchdown this year. And I think that streak just stays alive. And for tight end really to have a good day these days, they need to get in the end zone. So that's my rationale behind my Kyle Pitts tight end.
Okay, which of these tight ends is most likely to be starting in leagues?
I think
probably Goddard.
Probably Ertz, but I think Goddard and Njoku was definitely drafted in the top 12 to be a starting tight end. There's no two ways.
All right, let's take Goddard then.
All right, so your sits of the week, your 3-and-out sits of the week: Jordan Love at quarterback, Rachaad White at running back, Garrett Wilson at wide receiver, and Dallas Goedert at the Kyle Pitts tight end sit of the. I'm going to say that as much as I can because we know how many Falcons fans watch this show. Anyway. We hope you're sticking with us. Here's a little teaser for you. If you listened all the way through the show, we're going to have some fun giveaways coming up. So make sure you follow, hit that like button, leave us a comment, ask us questions in the comments so we could all see them. Don't just text one of us. So we have to go and have it. Leave a comment, follow us, leave a like, do everything. Just
subscribe.
That's it. Subscribe the button, as Brooklyn used to say. Anyway, anything else to add? The best fantasy co-hosts in football.
No. Maybe I'll win this week. Maybe
win your fantasy leagues and win all the money.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. We'll see you next week on 3 and Out.